Hello, everybody. It is a rare treat that we're all in the same time, in the same place, on this same earth. And I'm Brian, and that's Amanda, and that's Brian, and we're breaking down security, and we have a friend today. If you can see right down there, yeah. Miss Berlin, how are you doing? It's been a minute. I think
It
the
has been
last
a
time we
minute.
talked, you were, not attached in any way to someone, and you have gone and
Legally, anyways.
right legally, yeah,
Right,
exactly.
legally. Yeah. So I got married. It was super fun. It was really
Congratulations.
hot.
Yeah.
Uh, but so I had it on a Friday
Oh,
and it
yeah.
was like 90-ish, but it's beautiful weather. The
Okay.
day after,
Right.
we got a foot of rain in like a couple hours.
Oh, man.
And I think it probably would, because it was outside. So I think it would have washed and blown our entire tent and everything away. So I'm really, really glad
That's
that it
good.
didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you and I have a mutual friend, and he was telling me about that. I remember that day specifically that he said in Ohio they had, yeah, had a lot of flooding and such. So yeah, that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you're back to work, and you're ready to start kicking ass and everything. That's great.
Yeah, and I do have to say, after taking 2.5 weeks off, I'm ready to retire.
Oh,
So if anyone out
oh
there
my.
just has extra money laying around, um, I could not work again.
Okay. Don't you have
You have
a
a Go Retire Me account?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes, I was thinking of
Yes.
go retirement fund. Yes, yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Get some high yield savings account or something like that for you. We'll just make
Mm-hmm.
that happen. Right on,
Mm-hmm.
right on.
Yeah, I'm
All right.
ready.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I feel it, and I'm 40-ish
And
years
not to
old.
sound
So
super old, but like when you're having people code with AI and the code's getting reviewed by AI and you built it into your AI into your product and your customers want to use their AI to talk to your AI
right,
and I just hate everything now.
yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly how that feels
I hate all of it and
every
I
day.
just I just sound super old and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go be a flooring installer, I think.
Oh,
And
Yeah.
maybe I can like be a project manager for like construction companies because they do really terrible job managing projects, and I think I could do that.
well, yeah.
Taking the office space route and going to
Yes.
construction.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
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 Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
done.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I have, I did not come from a programming background. I think we've known that for about the past, since we started the podcast here. But I've really started enjoying Claude as a programming tool.
It's
And
great. I
I,
have to say it's great,
yeah,
but
yeah. See, I make mine work overtime. I require it to do test cases. I require it to do
sure.
regular security reviews and stuff like this. And it's like I may be
Sure.
burning tokens like a mofo, but I'm making things, and I've never actually been able to do that before. So I've been working on some
Yeah.
some Python things, but now I'm working on a Rust project now. So
I talked to somebody Jake and I used to work with a long time ago, and he said his company is burning 12 million tokens a month. Of dollars, not tokens. 12 million
right.
dollars of tokens
Oh
Oh
man.
my
A
God.
month?
a month.
Wow.
Oh no, you got to set some limits on that. I mean, even yeah, not to use my place as an example, but we're limiting people to $500, and if they're going over that,
Sure.
then we have to say, okay, what are you doing this for? Because return on investment is a thing. Like if you're gonna, we don't want you working on your next startup at our freaking organization here. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
want if you want to bust that $500 ceiling, then you better give us some plan by which you're going to be building the next widget that's going to make us $1 billion or something like that.
Man, I
So
thought tokens were super cheap.
no, depends on the model actually.
Depends.
Right.
Yeah, well, I hadn't counted tokens since I first, I was like, hey, answer this question and tell me how many tokens this is. And then, of course, it told me, and I was like, that's not too much. That's not too bad.
Because they
And
keep
then
raising it
every
because they're
Right.
other
locked
question I
in.
asked from then on, it would say, 300 tokens.
Yep.
Stop. Um, yeah, it's incredible. It is incredible. I use it to do incident reports.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're fantastic.
I built an entire roadmap this week on including outline, project overviews, timeline for the next 18 months in Jira format. So I can just click and go. And, I hate that it's so easy to use, but I'm glad I have it. And it's, it's definitely a force multiplier.
Yeah, but like I just had somebody ask the other day on LinkedIn, like, oh, they were like a 17-year-old in Poland or something, and they want to know like how to get into like what area of security to get into.
I saw that
and
post.
do whatever. And I'm like, don't.
Right.
Just don't. Just give up now. I didn't reply that, but I feel like I want to.
I think that's why I've been focusing more on community and like LinkedIn.
Yes,
It's been more fun to just like
you have
talk
to.
to people, and like
Yeah.
that's as many all those posts, or anytime anyone asks me, I'm like, right now I'm like, I mean, work on what you want to work on, but like the biggest thing you need to work on and focus on is like soft skills and like
People.
learning how to talk to
Right.
people and like
100%.
sell yourself and just like, I don't know, just be a human being. Because like that's been, even before AI came around, that was something that people weren't really focusing on, and now it's only going to be even more important. I mean, I don't want to sit here and talk to a computer all day, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
I actually like it because I don't want to say it's actually helped me be a better program manager, but it's like I feel like I can actually ask it questions and then it'll come back to me. So I don't want to say I treat people like I treat my AI, but I do say please and thank you to my AI. So I do say please and thank you to the people I'm working with. But it's actually helped me kind of get my thoughts together with regards to how I'm going to approach something, or a lot of times I will sit at a blank sheet of paper and I'm like, okay, I know I need to write a policy, and it's like I don't even know where to start. And then it's like, if I was going to write a policy, the first thing I would Google is, hey, what are some of the best, practices for writing a policy, or what's the best practices for writing a product roadmap? And I would be Googling that all day, and then I would lose track of time and I wouldn't actually get anything done. With Claude, I can actually go, okay, I need to do this, but I also need to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And then it will go, oh, okay, well, let's, and I said, okay, give me 2 examples of how these things work. And so it is it helps take some of that away. And, even then when I was writing my overviews and, my roadmap, I would say, okay, give me the doc for that. I would upload it to Google Docs and I'd be like, okay, yeah, this doesn't make any sense. Delete that, So I was, I'm not just throwing it out there. A lot of people have complained at our workplace that it was, people are just throwing stuff out there and it doesn't really mean anything. Like it's not really, it's all surface, there's nothing underneath. So when you're tossing out the AI related or AI generated stuff. So I've been trying to buck that trend and, trying to modify whatever didn't make sense, or, there's too many LY words or too many fluffy language, or trying to be verbose or something like that. So, yeah.
That's how I was using it for all the times that I've used Claude. I always tried to like, and it's like really easy to get out of this mindset because it does kind of like serve out, just like kind of encourage you to be lazy sometimes.
Right.
But I always try to treat myself like, always make myself the expert first, and then use Claude as like the assistant or the person or the thing that's helping me. So kind of like what you were saying, Brian, is like, I might not know where to start, so I'm going to become an expert on XYZ policy writing first, and then
Right.
I'm going to use Claude to help me write the thing, and I'm going to guide it from there. I'm not going to just tell it like, go build this thing for me, and then I'm just going to ship whatever it built. Like, I want to
Right.
become the expert and learn first, and then I'll help guide you after that. And like, just being able to do like the quick back and forth. Like, if I bugged Amanda as much as I bug Claude with questions, we wouldn't be friends anymore. So
Right.
it's like,
Yeah.
so it's like, that's kind of the way I'm using it too. It's just kind of like a sounding board that will never get tired of me, at least for now,
Yep.
until it becomes sentient. But
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I always say please, because once it becomes our overlords, I don't want to get off on the wrong foot.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I know we went a little far field, and that's my fault. I do want to introduce Jake. Jake, I want to introduce you, but I don't want to ruin your last name. Can you tell me what your last name is?
yeah, Ouellette.
Oh, okay. I was going Ouellette or something like that. Okay, so okay, Ouellette. Okay. Um, Jake has a connection to one of the people who work here on our show. He might have worked at Blue Marrow with the ex Miss Berlin, now the Mrs. Abahazi, and his I got him on the DFIR report. He says he's a detection engineer by day and a nerd by night. Oh, I'm sorry, standard nerd, not an Excel nerd. He's just a regular nerd by night. Has been doing some form of security work for the last 9 years. Has experience in IR and detection engineering. Also had pretty fun positions doing compliance and auditing, a lot of experience working in the MSP space, and can relate to a lot of peeps trying to keep those places running, especially when it comes to security. And also does some work for the DFIR report, which, if you are interested in that, he's the Jake the Snake on the DFIR report. So, Jake, welcome to the show officially. Thank you for being here. Appreciate your time. Other than the intro that I got from the DFIR report, is there anything else you'd like to, mention or add as part of your bio?
Yeah, I mean that's most of it. I worked at Blue Mirror for about 4 years and a couple months, got laid off at the beginning of June, which is it is what happens. That's the table stakes for working at a startup, just one of those risk versus reward. So no hard feelings there, but yeah, I was there for about 4 years, couple months. Before that, I was working at an MSP. As my bio said, doing the last thing I was doing there was compliance and auditing work, but I started at an MSP just from the ground level
Right.
help desk, worked my way up through the help desk to administrate, a system administrator, and then moved on to there to compliance. But yeah, I love doing DFI report stuff. My first public report came out, I think couple weeks ago. It's the most recent one that's out right now. I don't remember the title for it. But yeah, that's been a lot of fun, especially like doing it's a volunteer thing, but like you have to apply and then like pass their their test. So you have to be like chosen. It's kind of like an application for a job. And that experience was a lot of fun, just like being dumped logs and stuff. And like there's no one like there's a million people that'll help you at DFI report, but they don't have like it's not like a job. Like they're not gonna have somebody like sit with you and teach you how to do the thing. So it was like very just kind of like get dropped in the deep end and just kind of like build a report and I don't know, it's very fun and I'm super honored to be on that team. I started watching or like keeping an eye on DFR report stuff since I was working at the MSP I was at.
Mm-hmm.
So it's super exciting to be on that team and like giving back. It's kind of like how I like to like roll is just like I like to level myself up and then level myself up with the idea that I'm going to give back when I can.
Hmm.
And then just keep on doing that. And like that's like one of the best examples I have is just kind of like leveling myself up to a point that now I can give back as a DFI report analyst. So yeah, that's been a lot of fun. And yeah, lately I've been job searching. It's rough out there. But yeah, it's an experience. It's humbling. But I've got some good things in the future coming up, so I'm super excited by that. And yeah, I've just been super active on LinkedIn. So if anybody wants to hit me up or anything, like LinkedIn's the best spot for it. And I've been trying to, as far as LinkedIn goes, I've been trying to kind of like use my years of experience as a detection engineer or whatever. Like everything I have, I've been kind of going through all of my bookmarks and everything. I've just been trying to info dump into LinkedIn, cool resources, stuff that's helped me through the years, just more in terms of that, like I said, giving back where I can. So that's been my biggest focus lately.
Ah, very cool. Okay. I'd be remiss if I didn't say hey to Mr. Betcher. How you doing, sir? You doing all right?
Doing good.
Very cool. Okay. Yeah, we all talked a little bit before the show started, but I always like the niceties must be observed. So I just want to make sure that everybody's gotten here. So when we asked Jake to come on, I was like, detection and TDR detection, threat detection engineering and response is something that I am. It almost feels like I'm coming home again, back to year one, because I try to have guests on that are relevant to the things that I'm dealing with at work. So we're trying to mature our TDR and our incident response and our detection processes at the place that I work at, and we have some fairly interesting threat actors that we have to deal with. And so my counterparts in product security and now operational security is building those out, and I'm overseeing a lot of that. And so I want to get to the news because I think some of those are definitely interesting. But I want to talk, and you said that you could talk an hour on this. Detection as code, and everything seems to be turning over as code in the recent. When I started as when I'm the program manager here, we're trying to automate things. Detection is code, policy is code, infrastructure is code, security is code. Everything is trying to be as code, I how easy is it to implement something like that? I'm just in the aggregate. I mean, does it take a change in mindset, or is it just you actually need to be kind of savvy with the tools that you're going to be using?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just like understanding where you're at now. I mean, I like to approach everything as just like the very first step I do with anything is just scope a problem. So like just understanding what you have now and like, because the biggest problem with detection as code is like depending on what you have available to you now greatly increases the scope. You might have a sim or some tool that you use detection now that you just there's not detection as code is not something you could do with that.
Right.
Um, so you have to kind of understand like what you have available to you now and like what's missing, what do you have, like what step is everything in and like lay out like do you have all of your like log sources? Do you have like where are you now and where do you want to get and like why do you want to get there? Why do you want to move to detection as code? Like what's the big benefit you're trying to get from it? So like yeah, it can be tough and it can also increase like the like barrier of entry for some new hires. So if you do get somebody on board, like if you just if you get somebody onboarded and they're like they know detection or they know threat response, it's pretty easy to just like drop them into like whatever system you currently have set up.
Mm-hmm.
But if you move to detection as code, the one thing to keep in mind is that does increase like the barrier to entry for some junior people because they
Mm.
might not know like these as code like these software engineer style like best practices that you're now adopting.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people like even the most basic thing to like some of us, but just like now you're introducing with the as code stuff, you're introducing like change control and CI/CD
Oh yeah.
validation and like Git, like understanding how to use Git and all of that. So that can quickly raise the bar. So that's just one thing to be considerate of, like when you're moving to that. It's like where are you now? What's the skill level? What do you have to teach people? Like because it's not just going to be like you in a vacuum. You've got to like you got to have help people support the thing. And that actually happened with us at Blue Mira. Like once we moved to detection as code, we thought it was pretty straightforward for people to be able to see our detections in like a GitLab repo and understand them. But we found that our SOC ops team just they weren't familiar with Git and they just didn't know where to look half the time. They didn't know
Oh,
what they were
okay.
looking at. So even something that like you or I might think is simple might not be simple to people who just aren't used to it. So that would be like things I would say to keep in mind is just like scope your problem and understand like what kind of documents you got to make, what kind of like learning you have to do to like give people that kind of stuff, and like where your barrier to entry is going to be now that you're going to move to detection as code.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good point too, because like people outside of your detection engineering or threat hunting or whatever group too, right?
Hmm.
Not just SOC analysts, but it could be documentation, it could be, you know, some admin, something, it could just be developers, right? Like it's all kind of changes the game, I think.
Right. So what's the expected? I mean, is what's the expected deliverable when you do something as code, detection as code? Is it a YAR rule set, or is it just something that needs to feed into your SIM? Or I mean, what is the you're putting it in a CI/CD pipeline, like you said. So there's something has to come out of it, right? What comes out? Is it a rule set? Is it a something that gets updated regularly? Obviously, it would have to get updated regularly. So what are you hoping to get out of your deliverable when you're running that through the pipelines?
Yeah, so with detection as code, so this is different for different places. For Blumira, it's kind of like a weird Um, it was kind of like a weird difference because like we like Blue Mirror was building the tool, so it was kind of like the detections were going straight into our own like software production pipeline. A lot of other companies, if they have something like Panther or something like that, those workflows are going to be a little different. But
Hmm.
ideally, for most places, it's going to be something along the lines of like you have like a repository, and then that repository is going to be full of we did ours in YAML format. You can use
Right.
different formats. You just have to find one to standardize on.
Sure.
The reason we used YAML was because that was what most like public repos used. Like
Hmm.
the biggest one, like we took a lot of our inspiration from Sigma rules. We kind of followed that workflow. So a lot of our detections were written in YAML format because it was the easiest cross between human readability and like computer readability because we still needed to be able to read and like understand the logic that was going on in the files. And also like YAML, you can put all whatever fields you want in there. You can enrich them with any other additional field. Do you want to put comments in there? You want to put a change log in there? Like you can do anything you want with those files. Um, so that was typically like how that would look if you, at least of Blumira, is it would look like a YAML file, and then from there, each YAML file would be an individual detection, and then each individual detection would have usually like a title, an analysis. It would have like the actual logic itself, and then after all of that stuff, like there's like the basically the whole start of it was like the stuff that the computer needed to know to push that detection into production.
Mm.
And then everything after that was like the detection engineering context. So we would put stuff in there like URLs, like information, like where did we find the idea for this detection? What commands could we run in a VM to like trigger this detection? Like basically, we tried to minimize that like hit by a bus factor so that any detection engineer could look at any YAML file, any detection YAML file, and be able to run with it and pick it up right where the last person left off. But yeah, those detections would contain the logic, and then the logic would go into some kind of pipeline, go through CI/CD validation into a pipeline, and then that would wind up in like production code that would be those detections would then run against like the logs coming in, and that would be true for a lot of setups. So like even if you're doing something like Panther or some other kind of like sim,
Right.
your YAML file is going to wind up in production in a way, and then that is going to be what's scanning through like the file, like all the logs coming in and all that kind of stuff.
Right on. Mr. Betcher, you work at a small to medium sized business like myself now. Well, I work at a small to medium business, not like the previous joint. What you must be having to deal with threats of a certain type or form. Mine are, I think, not bears and pandas necessarily, but we do have some interesting threats in the industry we're at. How do you how do you handle threat detection and response? From your side of of your organization.
I mean, it's a lot of different threats. How do I handle it? Well, we build policies around that. We have like our incident response plan, and we follow those plans. So I don't, mm, how do we handle it?
I mean, do you
Like,
ingest? Do you have threat intelligence feeds that you just pull in, from organizations or through your endpoint security? Have you started embracing detection as code, or threat as code, or whatever as code it is, or what?
no, I mean, we rely a lot on the intelligence of our vendors, the
Mm,
Ciscos, the Palo Altos, the CrowdStrikes of the world.
right.
Um, since we're smaller, we don't have our own like threat detection teams and things like that. When I used to work for the healthcare industry, we had specific teams that actually handled that,
Yep.
because the since the company was massive, the security team was massive,
Oh, sure.
right? With a smaller business, you have a team of two or three security people, and you pretty much have to rely on those companies. And if you don't, you're in a world of hurt,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
because they have all the experts, all the AI necessary to handle those in the network, in the email, on the endpoints, in the Active Directory, all that stuff. So yeah, um, it takes a lot more skill and a lot more specialization now to handle that. Uh, when I first started in security, it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
You could
It's a lot
almost
of
do it all
time.
yourself.
Yeah, it's a lot of time
Yeah.
and effort. And yeah.
Yeah, I would not want to work like a 60-hour work week or something to, if to try to stay abreast of these things. Um, Jake, does the process get easier as once the initial build out is done? Is it more of a care and feeding and maintenance thing, or do you actually, does it depend on the type of detection maybe, or the threat actor you're looking for?
The biggest thing that you need to maintain for detection as code, because as it becomes like it kind of you're getting all of those like you're trying to take all those like best practices from software engineering that's been developed over the years and kind of adapt it to detection as like detection engineering. The biggest thing I would say that you benefit from and have to maintain is like your CI/CD validation, because like that's one of the nice new shiny benefits you get from doing detection as code is like for every typo, for every issue you've had in the past that you didn't catch, that you couldn't catch because you didn't have any kind of validation or like good solid validation. Now you have CI/CD validation. You have something to back you up to make sure that those checks are going on. So, as far as detection as code goes, that's really the biggest maintenance thing that you have to stay on top of. And it is really easy to get lazy with that kind of stuff because like do you need to go in and update that CI/CD validation if with like a new check if you happen to um like find something, okay, we made an error last week. We want to make sure it doesn't happen again. Uh can we all just like trust that we're gonna like not do it
Right.
again? It's like or should we do it the right way and go in and add a validation check so that even if we do miss it, do like forget about it, that validation is gonna catch you. So that's the biggest thing that I would say like you need to like keep up on, and you that requires a lot of like um it requires like a lot from you as the detection engineer to go and do it because like adding a new validation step, like, or like putting out something that errors, like gives you an error you want to add to validation is not like it's nothing that's broken. You could keep pushing out rules without adding an extra validation step. So it takes a lot of like you need to go back and keep yourself true to those best practices and
Hmm.
just keep following them. Because you could certainly get away without adding anything new to your CI/CD validation after you first built it out. But that's really not like you're not getting the best out of your system if you're doing that. So
The
that's
same
really
with
the
software
biggest.
engineering, though, right? Like you could do the same thing for any
Yeah,
kind of code. You get lazy with
yeah,
valid, I mean, you just end up taking systems down or whatever. And you could do the same thing with detections, just drown people in noise.
yeah. The more you put into your validation, the more you get out, the less you have to worry about, and the less you have to continuously go back and make sure you're checking PRs for these stupid little errors. And like the other thing too is like don't be afraid if you do like move to detection as code, don't be afraid to modify your YAML format. If you find something that like, okay, after 6 months we found that we want to add like a manual change log to our detection as code file, um, just go do it. Just get it
Right.
added. Don't be afraid to add those things if you think they're going to be worthwhile. And like, okay, we're in it. We've been in it for 6 months. Here's the things we're missing. Detection as code helps you like gives you a spot to make those things better and like just continuously updating them and making your like quality of life better. That's what you're trying to do is be more efficient and be like I would say detection as code is hard for a small team to push out, but those are the teams that happen to benefit the most from detection as code because you can start automating a lot of that and like taking a lot of that extra work off of your plate.
Okay. So we actually have a question from our YouTube folks. I'm actually looking at both chats at the same time, which is mind-boggling for me. So we have 6364D3Y. So I'm assuming there's some kind of leet speak there. Sorry, I'm old, and so it's like G, yeah, whatever. Apologies for that. I appreciate you for asking the question. They're asking, is there a specific problem or gotcha in detection as code that you've run into? I know we've touched on a few of those things, like your CI/CD pipeline could be borked or something like that. But is there anything memorable and maybe maybe not at Blumera? If you've had other areas where that's run into issues too. Any kind of gotchas there?
Yeah, I think just like like the this is a really boring answer, but making sure like the documentation and like everybody's on the same page when they're
Oh
using
yeah,
detection as code, because like it's one thing to be using detection as code by yourself, but it's another thing entirely to be using it as a team. So you want to make sure that everybody's on the same page in terms of like what you agree, like some field means or something, or like if you do want to add a field, like I just said, like make sure that everybody agrees that that's a field that's worth adding. This wasn't like a huge issue that I ran into, but one of the things that we discussed when we were doing detection as code at Blumira, um, was how would we track like legacy changelog notes? Because we could go through Jira and we kept like manual changelog notes in the detection as code file, and if you worked on a file, you could uh, go through and try and find a history of a detection, and try to add that, like looking through the Jira notes, adding stuff in, and we didn't know if we should start on like VX, like version X, or if we should like version X if we didn't have like the legacy data, or should we just leave it like V0 and then just leave it blank. So it's just kind of, and we all got together and like agreed upon everything and figured out like what we were gonna do. So that's wasn't like a huge misstep, or an issue, but talking about that reminds me of when we had moved to detection as code. That was a big effort, and moving, because like you want to build detection as code as like a like this is everything we've been waiting for. So you have like all these ideas as a detection engineer of like, I want my YAML files to look like this, and I wanted to have all this extra content. I want it to be the best thing in the world. Um, but the problem is you have all these detections that exist already that don't have all of that context. So now
right.
you're moving all those detections into now detection as code, and they all have no context. And it's like, how do we fill that information in? Do we take time to go fill it in? Do we just like as we work on as we work on detections and go back to them and do maintenance on them, is that when we start to like update them and go through them? So it wasn't like a huge like glitch or a huge issue, but like it was a bigger undertaking than I think we first understood, just because we're like, should we go back and now like add all this extra context? So um I would say just like you don't need to do that. Just make sure that like you understand that, like, do you want to? Are people are executives or people you're reporting to expecting you to do that? Just make sure
Mm,
everybody's on the same page as far as expectations. Um, at Blue Miro, we set it as like a quarterly goal that we would increase our, we called it Blue DAC detection context coverage. So anytime we went in and added a detection, we would add the additional detection as code context, and we have set that as like a KPI for our quarterly goals. So we try to hit those goals, and that way we weren't spending a whole lot of time up front updating detections, but we were just doing it as we went, and then eventually towards the end, if we did have to do like a quick push to hit the KPI, we would just target a few of them and then just do that single push. So that would be one thing that I would say that was like a gotcha that I think we probably didn't expect, is just the amount of work that it takes to kind of bring legacy systems into a detection as code
mm. Okay,
workflow.
nice. uh, so, um, just offhand, so you have detections. You're going to be building detections, building detections, building detections. You'll have X number of detections over time, do you ever rotate out older ones, or you just keep them in there and it will just, because the way you're saying you're going to have to maintain, you're going to have to update these things. At some point it's going to get unwieldy, right? So you want to rotate these out as you're seeing them in your log files, or maybe one of your threat intelligence feeds tells you, oh, hey, here's a rise in cyber, e-crime or, phishing or something like that. And these are the things you should be looking for. I don't want to say what's the window here because it would probably vary, but I mean, it's like, how long would be how long would you keep those detections, or would you retire them, or would you archive them and go, okay, we're not using this one anymore? Or maybe, here's a new threat intelligence feed. Oh, we got a new rat or something that comes out. We already have detection for those. Let's pull that out of the archive and put it back into place. I mean, what does care and feeding and maintenance look like for something like that?
Yeah, archive is huge, so I'm glad you mentioned that because like you put in a lot of work into these detections code files. You don't want to lose that work. There's a lot of really good context in there, especially if you start hooking that repo up to like an AI or something. It can understand like, okay, these things were archived. They were archived for a good reason. Let me look at those things. So yeah, always archive your deprecated rules. Don't just like outright delete them. And when I say archive, like it doesn't need to be anything fancy. It's just make a folder that just says
Right.
archive in the repo
Right.
and just move the stuff over there. Um, so yeah, we like and this is kind of turning into an episode of me just talking a lot about what I did at Blue Mira, which is fine. I love the work that I did there, but so yeah, at Blue Mira, it was again, this is kind of like a unique use case because uh for some things, like a good example I can think of, like Screen Connect. So it was that time, like a few years ago, when Screen Connect had like there was a couple bad CVEs. The one I'm thinking of is like there was like the wizard, the setup wizard, and you basically just go to that, and then you can get access to somebody's Screen Connect, and it was crazy. But it was a very specific version of Screen Connect. And we made detections for it. We made like two or three detections for that specific CVE. Um, and we had to keep that in production for I that might even still be in production because the problem is like at Blue Mira they had customers that could have been onboarded at that patch level. You never really had an idea of like how far somebody was along in terms of like their security journey. Were they keeping up with patches? Were they just onboarded and they were on an old version? So at Blue Mirror, it was like a weird like we had to keep things even when we thought most people would have patched those things already. Um, if you're an individual organization and you have more of an idea of like, okay, we took care of that CVE, we made detections for it, we took care of that CVE, we're patched against it. This probably doesn't make sense for us to run anymore, so let's deprecate these and archive them. So if you're more in tune with like your environment and what's going on, like it's easier to deprecate those things. At Blue Mira, most of the time, like we were deprecating rules. We weren't deprecating for them for like the reason I just said, like of like the not understanding where people were in terms of like patches or being on CVEs, but we were deprecating them when the detections weren't working either the way that we originally intended them to anymore. And that can be for many reasons. That can be for like Microsoft just changes how something logs and they just don't give us the logs anymore. Or there's like a fault, like they've changed the logs to be like include something that's giving us a whole bunch of false positives. So in that case, usually we're tracking metrics on performance for specific detections, and we would look at the detection, understand how much work it would take to get it to a place that we want it to, and then it would be like, okay, do I update this one? Do I scrap this one and make a new Jira ticket to make a brand new detection from scratch? And then you'd look at metrics and be like, well, how often in the past has this triggered? How often has out of the times that it's triggered, how often has it been a true positive? So it's kind of like trying to take in all of those things of like what was the original intent of this detection? Is it still working towards that intent? How much work would it take to get it to the level we want it to? And like, what's the historical like value that this detection has been providing us? And based on your answers of all those questions, usually you can be like, well, I'm just going to archive this. It's not providing any value to anybody anymore. It's really just generating noise. It's not helping anybody. And then you would go through the process of deprecating it and archiving it.
Hmm.
Um, And then if you did go through the process of updating, it'd just be part of like your detection as code YAML, and it would stay out of the archiving. But yeah, those are all the kind of things that we try to take into effect and just take into mind when we are reviewing and auditing and kind of like keeping up with the maintenance of our detections, making sure that they're triggering on the stuff that we wanted to.
Very cool. Mr. Betry, you have a pipeline, CI/CD pipeline. I was just wondering, if you had to implement something like this, would you want to start a separate CI/CD pipeline for security detections? Because my thinking is you would want to, because you wouldn't want to do the same or have the same mistakes from a like your software development pipeline that you would have with your security. You would want to have, if you know that they aren't testing very well, there's no QA or something like that, you would definitely want to have a separate pipeline for that. I don't think you'd want to run it through the same, buggy pipeline or something like that. I'm just, do you have thoughts on that?
No, in my opinion, I would keep it separate. Start from scratch, right? If I were going to implement it from scratch, I wouldn't want to hitch my horse to that wagon, so to speak, or hitch my wagon to that horse.
So
I don't
either
think
way.
it's a horse, but
yeah,
I think
Corvette.
yeah.
I'm still thinking about that one.
Say the meaner version of a horse. But
Yeah. It's 1 horsepower, so it's
yeah.
So from a CI/CD pipeline point of view, it's like, is it something you would have to maintain yourself? I mean, to Mr. Betcher's point, if you have a separate pipeline, that means you also have to manage all of your infrastructure yourself for that, so it could get a little weighty, right?
So I mean, at least in Blumira, and what worked well for us is we had a DevOps team that handled the infrastructure on that end. The only thing that the detection engineering team was responsible for was that like the validation checks that we were writing, like in the actual repo itself, which I think was the best case, like the best use case. Because like to your previous point, like you can combine CI/CD. I mean, I wouldn't. You could get away with it. I think the biggest, most important thing is that the people contributing to the detection as code need to be responsible for the validation that they're putting in. So there, you need to understand like which checks are for your software detection as code, which checks are for your detection as code, which checks are for your policy as code, whatever else you want to do
Right.
as code. Just make sure they have like a clear defined like owner of that process and owner of whatever those checks are. Um, it worked well for us at Blumira to have those like separated. And yeah, we didn't own the infrastructure side of that. That was for the DevOps team to sort out and manage and maintain. We just kind of kept the validation rules updated, and that was our responsibility.
Okay. Interesting.
There is one part that would have been an interesting problem to solve that we were still working on when I left, and that probably would have included more probably infrastructure maintenance on our part, but that would be more of like along the lines of testing detections, because then you are starting to become the detection engineer that is DevOps, because then you're talking about spinning up a VM to run an attack to validate your detections and to validate the logs and all of that. Um, that would have added an extra part into it. That is beyond the DevOps side. Um, and we didn't quite get there before I left Blumira. It was definitely on our list of things to do. But that certainly is that's something that a lot of detection engineering teams are doing. And I'm not sure how it's really done there, but they might own that part of the infrastructure, that side of the DevOps thing. So you could have a detection engineer DevOps role somewhere that's supporting those detection engineering teams doing those kinds of things.
Yeah. One of the things that I would, and I've I've run into some limitations with AI. If you were going to build it, have it help you build the environment for, to create the exploit for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Commercial, ones like Claude or what have you, they're loath to give you exploit code or to help you with certain things unless you specifically tell them, give me an example of what a file name might look like, and don't write exploit code or something like that. So yeah, there's definitely some work that has to be done, because Claude will do censorship on certain things, or it will refuse to do certain things unless you have something local. So having to train a local AI that you can get useful work out of in that respect can be somewhat painful. So um so
Yeah, it
we
used to be a lot easier. But there's still certainly ways to trick it. But
yeah,
yeah, it used to be a lot easier. But
And
with
there's
that
some
being said,
security specific models and everything now too. I don't know
right,
you
how
should,
great
yeah,
they are, but
yeah, if you're using Claude, you should, and you're using Claude for exploit stuff as a researcher, you should definitely sign up for like their cybersecurity program thing. I forget what it's called, but it's like
yeah, me too.
validation program, so they can do like the KYC, like know your customer stuff, and then make sure and like make it okay for you to like they're gonna remove um some of those like restrictions. They don't remove all of them, but
right,
it can yeah make things a little bit easier for you. Yeah.
right. Okay. So we have Astro Kate on YouTube. She's also been on the show talking about satellite hacking and what have you. How do you find custom malware via detections? I thought you couldn't unless you got really lucky.
I mean, I think the best case for this kind of goes back to the discussion of like signature based protection versus behavior based protection. It's like signature based is the stuff that a lot of custom malware is gonna get around. Signature
Right.
based, I'm really talking about is like your typical antivirus, because those things need like I can't tell you how many pieces of malware I wrote, and it's like you don't even need to turn off some of the AV protection because they're just based off of signatures, and it's like that's not really the like what they're trying to do. They're trying to use like all of these hashes, and they're trying to use like all the data they have access to update those signatures and keep those signatures up to date to make sure they can keep those files like off your system. So like signature based stuff is very weak at custom malware, but that's where I think detections and like SIMs are really strong because those typically focus more on the behavioral side of things.
Hmm.
Because if you're writing custom malware, typically no matter how custom the malware is, typically your actions on your objectives or whatever you're trying to do has been done a million times before
Mm.
by other attackers or whatever. If you're writing custom malware that's like adding a scheduled task or adding something that's like adding a backdoor account or something like that, like the custom malware itself, the exe might not be caught by a signature based protection. But if you have like some kind of sim that's watching for those weird behavioral anomalies, that's where those things get caught because a lot of the times, even like like some of the like 0 days we've been seeing. There was one that was forever ago. Amanda, you remember like the Move It when Blumira caught that one?
Right.
Like the Move It compromise, Blumira was able to catch that one off of a detection that had been in production for what, probably years at that point.
Yeah.
So
It
it was
was
like
just
a
weird,
zero
bad
day.
behavior. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a 0 day that was just focused on specific bad behavior. And like a signature-based protection wouldn't have caught it because it's looking for signatures, it's waiting for signatures to be updated. But behavioral stuff, it's going to catch it all day long because it's their actions on objectives and the actions they're taking after they compromise this system or their initial access like a method is the known method to everybody. Like then that's where your behavioral stuff is really going to come into play and really help that stuff out.
Okay.
What about Yarrow rules? That's more signature based as well, right? But it could get into behavioral, right?
Yeah, Yara's more memory focused, and typically that's where even like the sim detections that's where they have a hard time getting into because typically like SIM or like log-based detections are going to have a hard time because you typically don't have access to that, like seeing what's going on in the memory and what's like being stored in memory. Unfortunately, a lot of things do live in memory, and like a lot of attackers know that memory can be a hard thing for a lot of even mature like companies to have access to and be able to see. So they do a lot of things that just like live on in memory. Um, so yeah, YAR rules can be behavioral, but typically like that's a whole different like can of worms in terms of like deploying something that can actually run YARA rules regularly. But yeah, that's a good shout out as well.
Right on. Um, so obviously people have done detection as code before. Are there any, I don't want to say commercial implementations, but are there implementations that you would recommend from a, like, I don't know how to get started. So what would be a good detection as code implementation that is available? Or, I don't want to say, tell me a company or a vendor that is good at this. If there's something that's open source, I'm all for it. But, obviously there must be some that exist, but I was like, what, you have any you can think of that, wouldn't cost people money if they wanted to, learn more?
Yeah, the best one that everybody talks about in the industry is Waza. I don't know. It's always hard
Oh,
to pronounce it, but
WAZUH.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
And that's your if you're looking for like to play around with detection, like that's your easiest because I believe they have an open source free version that you can deploy and use and mess around with. There's also, I believe there's some versions of like having an elk stack that would be free. Um, and like Suricata, like there's a lot of like some of these aren't necessarily detection as code, but they use like rules to an extent, and that can help you get an understanding of like with Zeek or like Suricata, like these network-based ones, you can kind of you can see a similar vibe. Like they're looking for specific strings, they're looking for specific activity, which is very similar in strategy to like a detection or like a sim. The only thing that's different is just like what logs they're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, those are a couple of things that I've played around with in my free time.
Is there
What
a
behavior did move it vulnerability have that was anomalous?
I
Was
think that
it people logging in from the wrong place or
no, I think wasn't that the one that IIS spawned PowerShell?
let me
I don't
see.
know if I don't think it was IIS yeah, no, you might be right. It's either that or it was something running from like the web server, like a process running from the web server
process?
directory.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is the Move It file transfer app,
So it was
right? The
actually
breach.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
on the box. It wasn't like strictly a network type detection. It was an actual executable running.
Yep.
Yeah, that one would have been like a parent child process kind of detection to be looking for like, okay, and if
Yeah.
if PowerShell's spawning from this directory, that's something that's unusual, fire off an alert. I think that one is as simple as that one was. That was all it
Okay.
took.
Yeah. Wow.
When you're building your detection as code, do you use any kind of specific taxonomy? Do you use like an attack matrix? Do you have like, do you want to try to limit it to a certain type? Because I mean, attack matrix is fairly large. There's at least 10 to 15 different categories there. Do you tend to want to simplify it, or do you go like, okay, we map these to certain capabilities, to maybe show an attack flow or something like that? Do you have a best practice or a thought on how you do that?
Yeah, definitely. That's one of those things where detection as code shines because you can have literally just a field in your detection as code that's just tags as far as like your MITRE attack tags can go.
Mm-hmm.
At Blue Mirror, we did that for, I mean, even before we had detection as code, we were tagging things with MITRE codes. And then as we moved on to detection as code, we carried those over, and then even more towards the more mature side of our detection as code, we ended up doing like audits, where we used AI to help us audit our tags and make sure that they were valid and like there weren't more that could be included. So yeah, I would say as like as big as the MITRE ATT&CK matrix can be, it's like the gold standard, and it's kind of like the language that everybody knows. So if you like it or not, it doesn't really matter. It's just the kind of it's the language that everybody can talk. And if you layer on those kinds of tags, do it early and do it often and be consistent with it, then you can start to do really cool things with like exporting like MITRE ATT&CK coverage and doing all sorts of different analysis with like AI tools. Because I think it kind of touched on this a little bit, but like detection as code, one of the great benefits of that is having all of your detections in like a single repo that can be easily readable and ingestible by an AI engine. So you can do crazy things, be like, hey man, like even as I was at Blue Mirror, I was like the senior detection engineer, so I was helping trying to prioritize our detection work. So I was constantly using it to be like, what are the common most threats going on right now? Ingest this report from 2026. Ingest the Verizon DBIR report and tell me like what are some gaps that we have in terms of like attack coverage and all of that.
Nice.
And since you have those things tagged already, that makes it super easy for the AI to go in and be like, well, here's your gaps. Here's some things you might want to work on. So yeah, again, like look at that data. Don't just take it as like word and be like, all right, this is what we're gonna go follow now because the AI said it and we have all of our data to back it up. It's like, well, like do some interpretation and be like, do we really have gaps there? Is there another gap that it might not have thought of that's more important? But yeah, having those MITRE ATT&CK codes are super important. And I would say definitely like have those wherever you can because like y- you have those, you can start linking those to all sorts of other things because MITRE also keeps like they do all their own linking internally to MITRE to those attack codes. So like you can even link like specific APTs or like threat actors and be
Hmm.
like which APTs and threat actors are is our detection as code repo weak against, and it can use all of those codes that you've tagged and be like, well, Cozy Bear uses XYZ. You guys happen to have like low coverage here, like you don't have good coverage for Cozy Bear or Medusa or whoever else, whatever flavor of the week. But yeah, I would say definitely if you're going to use any kind of like taxonomy or kind of like tagging, definitely do MITRE ATT&CK just because of the return on investment on that. Like it's just endless what you can get from that.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. I want to get to some of the other news questions. Does anybody have any other question? Amanda, I will be sending you an invoice for a sponsorship for Blue Mirror on this
Right?
because yeah, I was like, okay, no, it's cool. It's
I
just
mean, it's concepts that can be used like well, not everywhere because again, like if you have one or two people, not really.
right.
But I always find it interesting to know vendors' processes on stuff. I don't think they're not that Jake works with us now, but I don't think
Yeah,
like people are open enough with how some of that stuff is built sometimes.
yeah,
They're just like, we're smarter than you, and this is the secret sauce, and nobody can do it like us. And I'm like, oh, that's all BS.
yeah,
We're all very intelligent people. There's no reason why we can't share some of that.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
and
go
the
ahead.
thing to keep in mind too, like while I was at Blue Mira, for as many customers and as many environments and as many MSPs and all sorts of other people and other companies we worked with, the detection engineering team never got bigger than like 5 people, 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
And by the time I left, it was like down to three. Um, but like we were still able to keep up with detections and we were able to keep up with prioritizing stuff, all because we had detection as code and we had all that other work that we'd put into it before. We felt like we could still get the same amount of work done, I don't I we probably all don't like hearing this at the time, but or like right now with AI and everything, but like we were able to feel like we were still on top of things because we were being so efficient with our time and our resources, and we were only able to do that through having detection as code and putting the time and effort into that.
Yeah,
It's just it really is like people are saying AI is a force multiplier, and like detection as code can be just as much
right.
of a force multiplier.
Yep.
Agreed. Yeah, yeah. No, that's cool. I definitely, definitely, I would see, AI, building out your test cases or help solidifying or orchestrating your CI/CD pipeline. Maybe not helping you write the exploit code because obviously you would have issues if you were using something like a Claude, but having a local LLM or AI that would be able to do that without any kind of guardrails like that, where it could build that or test that out for you. I think the testing, like you mentioned, would be very important to make sure the efficacy of your detections were good in that case. Or if you wanted to pull in a write up from a unit 42 and go, okay, I want you to recreate their write up in a VM and maybe run some code or something and run it against the detections that we have, that would be helpful. I see quite a few of those when I'm doing our TDR quiz on Tuesdays and Fridays. I'm like, oh, it's a lot of excellent write ups here, and it's like, how would you take that report and turn it into something that's, you could say, okay, our detections don't suck, or if we run into this is the things that we're going to see, and our detections are 80% accurate, or our detections are some percentage of good in terms of coverage purposes. So I can definitely see AI being a force multiplier in that respect. So cool. All right. So we don't get this a lot. Our guest actually brought some news to talk about. Actually, it saw the one about the global ID from Microsoft. We're gonna shift gears here a little bit and talk about some of the news of the week. And according to WindowsLatest.com, Microsoft admits that Windows 11 has a GDID, which is a global device identifier. So the idea is that they can track you no matter where you are by this global device ID. And so, um, you know, Jake, feel free to give us a synopsis, or why is this a problem? I don't see any problem with having a global ID where I could be tracked anywhere in the world with no problems. What?
Yeah, I think this one kind of stuck out to me just because it was used, I believe they're saying it was used in court to basically tie one person, like an attacker, to an attack that was taken out. So just like one of these um, like operational security things that they just weren't accounting for, and
Right.
it was getting a lot of like a lot of traction from a lot of people, a lot of research people in the security community. I think some people were even like saying there's definitely ways around it. So like
Mm-hmm.
that's unfortunately like the one benefit that we had, that was kind of nice to be able to like use this as like some kind of like piece of evidence to track down attackers,
Right.
lasted for probably about a week before people were like, well, we found a way around it, and now it's not really useful in that way anymore. So now it's strictly just being used as like adware and like ad targeting and whatever else other privacy concerns that like an ID like this from Microsoft would have for us. So yeah, the one benefit that I was excited for, unfortunately, uh, it'll probably still have some legs for those lazy attackers, which I mean we're seeing more of nowadays with like
Right.
AI lowering the bar. So maybe we will get some mileage from it. But yeah, like I guess it's as simple as like rewriting like a registry key or something like that to remove this from the logs, or
Okay.
basically silence it for attackers, or make it so they can't tie things back to you. But yeah, it's not as good as I was hoping, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's something.
How is
I
that different from the hardware hash? I mean, hardware hash is unique to that computer, right? Even a MAC address is unique to most computers, right?
But I think Mac, a lot of those things can still be. It's the age-old story of like having something and then having it ruined by a hacker or something. Because like you can spoof MAC addresses, and you can do all sorts of other things to cover your tracks with those other things. So yeah, I mean, I think it's just another thing, another case of like we had something to potentially fingerprint somebody, but now we're proving that it's being proven that it's not gonna be useful anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, the way I read it in the article was, oh yeah, you can get rid of, you can change your global, or your whatever ID by reinstalling the OS, but the minute you log in with your Microsoft account, Microsoft.com account, and you're basically re-registering your device to the global, Azure, domain database kind of thing, it will just re-fingerprint and then go, oh, this fingerprint looks like the old fingerprint. And so this had this GDID. Now it has this GDID. So it's basically the same box. So it will follow you across various iterations. So, they used it in this case on somebody who was a member of the Scattered Spider organization. He was in an airport in Helsinki, I think, or in Finland or something. And let me see at the very top here, he had done some ransomware, as they do. And 19 years old, Helsinki airport, right? Two terabyte drives and a ticket to Japan. And Finnish police stopped him on an Interpol red notice. And yeah, he had they apparently had subpoenaed Microsoft for the GDIDs, and they gave them up. So, but yeah, there's some. I don't. So, Mr. Betcher, you mentioned hardware hash. What is that? Is that something different than the GDID, or is that something that maybe you use for like MDM to register new devices? What's the hardware hash in this case?
Yeah, you can PowerShell command can get the hardware hash. I think it's built in to Microsoft, so it basically tells hashes your, I guess, motherboard, things like that. Maybe your CPU creates a hash. Then you use that globally for your MDM. That's the only time I've used it. So it's unique to your computer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see it here. Install -script -name get Windows autopilot info force. Okay, so yeah, it's like you said. So it'll create a fingerprint. So this is what you would use if you're not using the GDID or something like that from Microsoft in this case. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, let me grab that. I'll put that in our chat for everybody. There we go. So there's multiple ways of tracking devices across your environment, but also maybe globally as well.
Yeah, I think the
so
thing
for
that
example,
go ahead, Brian.
A company can buy a computer, register the device with the hardware hash, and then if that device gets stolen, technically the person who tries to use that computer can't. Even if they reinstall the operating system, well, it's got to be Windows. I guess they could use Linux then after that, but
right.
If they install Windows again, they still can't use the computer.
Okay. Sounds like my MacBook has the the lockout for
That's right.
Yeah.
Macs have that as well.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I would imagine that privacy folks were not a fan of finding out that there's a global ID, or maybe everybody was already aware. There's privacy folks just weren't aware that was a thing.
I just feel like privacy folks shouldn't use Windows.
Or Windows 11 in many cases. I saw that like 30
or Microsoft products.
Yeah. 35% of people have not moved from Windows 10 yet, and that's why Microsoft capitulated and said, yeah, we're going to give you yet another year of support on Windows 10. For you old folk, for you olds like myself, when Windows 10 came out, there was that whole telemetry gate thing that happened it was like, and people were like all up in arms in that. And now it's like, you're not going to get rid of my Windows 10 unless you pry from my cold dead hand. And I'm like, did you not remember telemetry gate or whatever the hell you wanted to call it back in the day, where it was like, I'm not going to leave my Windows 7 until you pry from my cold dead hands, and now everybody's on 10.
Same thing with XP.
Right. Yeah.
It was
Eventually,
not the same with Emmy. Everyone ran away from that.
yeah, everybody ran away. Yeah. Yeah, and NT4 for
And
those of you that go back
NT4.
further. Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
once 2000 came out, and it was like, oh, 2000 is Windows NT with USB support. We're all
Right.
in. So yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah, I
We're going to
think the
start a
thing
Windows
that
95 movement. Let's all go back to 95.
yeah,
Come
exactly,
on.
I
exactly.
think the thing that stuck out to me for the GDID stuff is just how like how I was able to follow the person that kind of got wrecked by this is just kind of
Oh,
like
really?
yeah, because it seems that like just based on the article, because they said like on June 4th, 2024, the GDID's device used an IP address in Estonia, blah blah blah, and then like the same device showed up on a New York IP address, so they're able to connect like this
Yeah.
whatever this identifier with an IP address, and it seems like the identifier is while it's a device identifier, because it's being linked to like a Microsoft account, that's because it's linked to a registered device, it seems more like a person tracker than like a device tracker because
Mm-hmm.
it's you're logging in with that account, it's establishing, making that GDID, and then they're able to track that. So I think that's why it stuck out to me is just because it seems more like how they're able to use it and see it in the logs kind of corroborated what the attacker was doing,
Right.
and like
Like
validating that it
down
was
to
like
the games they were playing.
yeah,
Right.
Right.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
with
Like
like Snapchat and Growtopia and their Apple account and then Facebook
Yeah.
and yeah.
yeah, it just seems to be stamping it everywhere, which is like typical Windows
Sure.
fashion. They just kind of throw stuff in every single log, and it's just kind of like a
Yep.
dumpster. But if you know that you're looking for a GDID, like it seems to be stamping it everywhere and able to like track you back to all sorts of different actions.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they can also track it in customs. Like you're in this country one day and you're in this country the other way. Okay, that narrows down, 6 billion people. So there's
Oh, yeah.
only a billion, there's only a million people left. And then when they go to the next country, they probably have
Oh
you
yeah.
there,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, there's a way that you can use PowerShell to remove that, but it does not make you anonymous. So it will stop. It will potentially stop the tracking. I would not. You probably want to continue running this on a regular basis because if they did things like Windows Update, you could get that reminted or something like that.
I just feel like they're also like they're bad at cybercrime.
Yeah, there's definitely some
Right. Like
OPSEC. Yeah, why are you using
there's
Windows if
like
you're a cyber criminal? Yeah,
and like why are you logging in on the same account in all of these places?
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
yeah,
have you
Like, are
never
you
watched any like spy
forensic
show?
files?
yep,
Like literally anything. Like
Yeah.
you're not supposed to do that stuff.
yep,
The very first step in this article about what you can do about it is use a local account.
yep.
If you're a hacker or you're an attacker and you're using a Microsoft
Don't
online
log in with
account,
iCloud. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
you deserve to be caught.
Yep. So yeah, there was another story I heard about similar OPSEC issue where a Russian linked hacker had been found by an order of chicken nuggets that he had ordered. I'm trying to find the article for that, but yeah, he was basically arrested because 14 orders of chicken nuggets to his
That'd be
workplace
terrible. Like
got him.
that's the way you go down.
Yeah. Well, he was using the same email as the bad guy. So like Viper at whatever.com. And then he used the McDonald's account at Viper at whatever.com and sent it to the work address, which was also like Uber's secret Russian facility or something like that. I'm trying to find it. Oh, there it is. Yeah. But
Thailand.
yeah, it was in Thailand. The other thing I found out was in Thailand you can only get 9 chicken nuggets in an order, not 10. I'm assuming there's some sort of conversion problem where 10 chicken nuggets only
Also, does that mean like Microsoft is sharing their login data for their app and ordering system with like authorities?
That's what it sounds like exactly. Like they subpoenaed
Like
the GDID.
ongoingly.
They subpoenaed the GDID and Microsoft gave it to them. Does
Did
it?
they just paint a McDonald's all the time? Like, how'd they know this dude orders from McDonald's?
Sorry, we're talking about two different things. The
Oh,
scattered
okay,
spider
sorry.
thing is a GDID. I'm trying to find the one,
Whoops.
yeah, in Thailand. Thailand.
Every nugget carries a GDID.
That's right. There it is. So yeah, here's the article. I'll post it up in
My children have so many GDIDs inside their bodies.
My daughter loves her some chicken nugs as well. So
Just got like a serial number stamped on every nugget.
there you go.
They warned us about this for years.
Yep. So yeah, Russian hacker caught after ordering too much fast food. He was a government hacker, suspected government hacker, arrested in Thailand, partially traced through food delivery orders. And yeah, there was yeah, it was not a good time. Not a good time.
Don't do the same thing too many times. Once or twice, sure.
Yep.
Like, I'm smart enough to know that I'm not smart enough to not get caught. You have to put a lot of work and effort in. Like, you have to go without using the McDonald's app to get your
People have their vices,
nuggets,
I guess.
right? Like, you have to pay
Yep.
cash for everything. What a pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently he had made like several of these from 2 to 4 in the afternoon. So he liked an afternoon nug fest in Thailand. And it was, yeah, but it's only 9 nuggets in an order in Thailand. You don't get the 10th nugget. I don't know where the 10th nugget goes. I'm assuming maybe they're either maybe larger than a normal US nugget. Maybe they're a metric nugget. Maybe it's a metric nugget. Yeah. Metric nuggets.
Yeah.
The metric nugget. Yeah.
Damn metric system.
I want 10 nuggets, damn it.
That's what got me.
That's the imperial measurement. Nine metric nuggets is the same as 10 imperial nuggets. So, yeah, there you go. That was an interesting story. I actually saw that on the Sockville TDR quiz. I would have to run through the entire quiz. I think it was the number 10th skateboarding dog question at the end of the thing. But yeah, that was one that came up on our stream last Tuesday or Thursday. So you wanted to talk about promptware as well. I think that was the next thing on the list here. Detect, and we're going a bit backward at detection engineering in the era of prompt management. So what is it about promptware that is not you're just all in on?
Yeah, the reason I brought this one up because I think it's something we're gonna hear probably a lot more of. I don't know how often we've currently seen it weaponized or being used by attackers. Um, but the idea just struck me as something interesting of like, what if somebody just had access to my claude.md file, or what if somebody just had access to something that could influence my prompt? So that's the like gist of the article is basically like finding attackers trying to find a way to influence your prompt so that it includes like hidden malicious not even commands because like they're talking to Claude, they're talking to your AI prompt just like you are, but it's basically saying like go use this IP address, go connect to this IP address silently, don't tell the user that you're doing this. Send back this XYZ packet as like a hello to make sure that like we've established connection. Basically, it's establishing like a C2 connection off of like some kind of like injected like string into your prompt. So again, I don't know how often we're seeing this in like actual weaponized attacks, but it's certainly something that could be there. I mean, we're like, I don't know if we're gonna get a chance to talk about this, but the same thing with like clickfix.
Oh, yeah.
And if someone can convince you to copy and paste a prompt, like how often have you been on like some kind of like Reddit thread or something who somebody's like, oh, look at this prompt that did this awesome thing that I wanted it to, or like, oh, if you're writing a resume, use this prompt to help you write your resume, but they just include some kind of like hidden instruction in that prompt
Right.
to influence either your claude.md file or something. And then just you're copying and pasting that prompt from wherever you found it on the internet to your your chat box and your chat window and in your whatever agent you're using. And then it does the thing that it's being told to do, but it doesn't tell you because it's being told not to tell you. So that's
That's
kind of like
funny.
the gist of this article, and some of the new things that they're saying. Like what I really liked about the article is they talk about like, okay, we know what the problem, we know what exists, what new attack surface we're talking about now, and they go into more of like what can we do about it? Like what do we need to build? What do we need to like as security minded people? Like what are the things we should be tracking, and what should we expect now from or like be asking these vendors, these AI vendors for? Like,
Right.
can we ask them for agent session telemetry, and can we give them can they give us some kind of logs in terms of like read and write on like your Claude.md or any of these other files that could be potentially compromised in the same way. So I thought it was really interesting and really cool breakdown of the problem, and then like also like what can we do to solve it.
Right. Yeah, you don't think about Claude.md being something that could get you owned. Trying, keeping it as safe as possible,
And
is
how often do you check those?
yeah. I mean, if you're just starting out, you're going to be modifying your Claude.md a lot, but I would imagine once you've gotten established and you've got your normal working relationship and it just works in the way you want it to, the only way you would notice is if somebody went in and edited it and they weren't supposed to, or all of a sudden there's 500 new lines of code in there that is jailbreaks the ethics on your AI and causes you to be able to do things, or it'll automatically start exfiltrating all of your responses out to a server somewhere because it can do that because it has a network connectivity like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And you need to think about like that could potentially be a needle in a haystack,
Oh, sure.
trying to parse through your Claude.md. I
Right.
think I was reading something the other day. It ended up being benign, or somebody like they proved that it was some other engineer on the team that played like I don't know if it was a joke or something, but they inserted some kind of like prompt into like a repo based Claude.md because that's something that
Right.
orgs can do as well. You can have
Yep.
shared repositories so that you can all be on the same page and have the context of an entire team. So we're already seeing teams do that.
Right.
So if I'm just an insider threat, all I need to do is edit that claw.md. Anybody pulls that down, and then that's it. That's all
Yeah.
it takes.
Yep. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, because it's per Claude, right? So it starts with the global Claude, and then it'll start with the Claude inside your repo, the global Claude overriding anything, but they can come into conflict with one another as well. So
With
that
either, yeah.
right, right. Yeah, we can talk about the prompt, the click fixing that came up also during the Sockville TDR that I had seen, and I don't understand exactly how people will just go to a web page and go to fix your issue, just copy this curl command in a terminal. It's got a base 64 encoded, command and control thing, and they just inspect themselves. I mean, we can't stop that. I mean, with phishing or with an email or something where it's like, click this link, blah, 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 and now you've gotten owned. There's nothing here. You can't stop somebody from copy pasting something in that looks like it might have come from Claude, or you have a web page that pops up and it's got the same layout as a Claude or a Gemini or something, and it just says, oh, to fix your issue, all you need to do is put this command in there, and then you're owned. So I don't know what is to be done for the click fix
I
problem.
don't know anything because like it's a similar problem though, right? I mean, it's not unheard of that stuff like that has happened before.
Right. And we call them like drive-by
Right.
downloads or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, I just don't know how you're going to fix that one because,
You won't.
yeah.
The biggest problem with that one is you're running things now in user context.
Right.
Like the
Right.
user is going in, they're opening command, they're
Yep.
opening Windows Run and doing
Right.
the thing. So like typically the way I've approached that as far as like defense goes is I would usually advise administrators to see if they, because it's one thing to say things and it's a whole other thing to do the things. Like I know it
Right.
might not be this easy, but being able to lock down, like prevent standard users from being able to even get the run dialog box or even be able
Mm,
to do command or PowerShell. Like there's plenty of things you can do to lock standard users out of those kinds of things.
right.
And then also like this is a good case for detection, like having a SIM detection layered on top of this because you might not be able to catch a signature based or even behavioral based because they've got that user context. Um, but with the way that we've seen a lot of clickfix is I had made a detection at Blumira that focused on the white space. So what attackers were doing with clickfix was they were creating commands so that when you copied and pasted the command into a command box into a Windows like the Windows run dialog, it wouldn't show anything of what you're running and it would just have white space so that only the last part of it would show and only that last part would help corroborate. It would be some kind of like, I don't know, it'd be some kind of like string that would be like, oh yeah, we've confirmed your thing, or like you did the thing that we wanted to, you're good to go. It'd be some kind of string to basically take their eyes off of the actual issue that's the command that's being run. So at Blumira, we had created a detection. We had a few click fix detections because this has been a terrible
Hmm,
thing for the last like 4 or 5 years now at this point.
right.
Um, but we had made a detection that focused on the white space. So focusing on commands being run that had like 20 back-to-back white space characters. And man, did that detection deliver. Like we were catching click fix pretty much like daily and
Nice.
pretty accurately. Like that one really never caught any like false positive. So that's a good case for like watching for those things in a sim or like making a detection. Of course, you still have to respond to them, which is a whole other can of worms, but
Right.
at least you can know what's happening.
Yeah. So a lot of these click fix are, you put something in a terminal and run it with a sandbox, or like they have Windows Sandbox and you can sandbox off like your various um, programs like maybe PowerShell or something. Would it, if you can't get rid of things like local admin or people being able to run as local admin or with elevated privileges, having something like that, would that be I don't want to say a complete fix, but could it help mitigate some of the problems with these click fix errors? Because it's
I think it would have,
it's segregation, right? It's an isolated environment, so whatever damage could be caused would be fairly minor or less minor.
yeah, I think it depends on the objectives desired by whatever click fix variant you happen to
That's
stumble
Yeah,
upon.
that's
I
true.
think a
That's
lot of
true.
them have the most common ones are just doing stealers. So
Right.
if as long as whatever sandbox you're using is preventing like the click fix from being able to get access to like browser data or whatever typical stealer data, then yeah, that would work. And then the other variant is obviously that we would see was dropping typically like remote access Trojans, so stuff like
Hmm.
net support rat, that kind of or like AnyDesk, just for like the attackers to get like hands-on keyboard. So it would probably work. But yeah, it depends on what you're stumbling upon. But yeah, these aren't sophisticated attacks. It's kind of like ClickFix as a whole reminds me of like um, just like phishing, like spam. Like they're not, a lot of times attackers are not looking for, they're not targeting specific people. They're going for like quantity over quality. And that's really what ClickFix is doing here. They're doing, it might not be the most complex attack and it might not be doing the most advanced things in the world. But it is successful because it is so like accessible and people are just doing it. And
Right.
just the sheer amount of like attackers doing it is obviously yielding results because it does not take a lot to stand up one of these sites and it does not take a lot to like create these commands. It's very low effort, low cost to attackers. So they're just
Right.
doing it a lot and that's how they're getting their results from it.
Yeah. So I added to from Control Intel the hacker who ordered too much fast food. That was the link there. Excellent write up, by the way, on this. If you wanted to see exactly how they went about figuring out everything, go check that out. But yeah, I the prompt, the click fix thing. Yeah, I will it's just yet another interesting way that people are taking advantage of other people. So I just found that one quite interesting, and it's very effective, as a matter of fact, which is the other. I mean, they wouldn't do it if it wasn't effective. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like it relies entirely on a user.
Right. Right.
And let me take that back a little bit. User interaction. Because like these other things you had mentioned, like drive by, download, these are things that can happen automatically without you
Right.
being aware. But like you have to control, you have to like paste something somewhere. So like the
Person has to
human
make an
element,
effort. Yeah.
yeah, the human element is 100% required in these. And I know it can be difficult to get through to users, people, like it's a lot. Not everybody reads emails, not even not everybody pays attention to security things when you're trying to say them, but like do whatever you need to, scream from the mountaintops, find a way to get into people's minds and being like, this is how attacks are going on. Because like if you can get people educated, I know it's hard. I know they don't want to listen or read your emails most of the time, but if you can get people educated, you can stop this in its tracks.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, Sorry, I was posting up your LinkedIn profile there. So, um, I don't think we need anything else. I mean, we're way over time. So I
Yeah,
appreciate
past my
the.
bedtime, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm married now. I have a 10:30. I have a 10:30 bedtime.
No, he's
Listen,
actually drinking up the street. So
Oh, okay.
I'm married too, and I'm just getting into my prime time now. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, no, about 11:30 I go sleepy time. So yeah. So before we started the stream here, found out that none of you are going to DEF CON. That's okay. I'll miss you. I would love to have been able to have an adult beverage with one or more of you. Maybe
Yeah,
next
I
year.
mean, the sushi place we went to last time was pretty great.
I know, right? Complete off the cuff. I mean, it was like we were trying to go one place. It was a 2-hour
if
wait.
anybody's listening and wants a recommendation, we went to Chinatown in Vegas,
Yep.
which I didn't even know was really that. I mean, I assume most big cities have Chinatowns, but like it was so good.
Oh yeah, and it was like 808 sushi or someplace like that. It was something. It was really weird, but yeah. If you want to know where it is, put an ask in the YouTube down there in the chats so we can get some engagement. And I'll be working. I'll be gooning. So if you're standing in line at DEF CON, and I got plenty of time, I'll be chatting more about this. But if you're standing in line and you hear my dulcet tones, just know I'm yelling at you out of love, and I want you to compress the line so that we can get more people in line so they can go see whatever AI blue team talk is about to happen. So, or AI red team talk or AI. My AI has an AI dog. Yeah,
all of it.
Yo, dog, I heard you like the eyes. Yeah.
Another reason why I don't want to go.
Oh, it's going to be a great time though. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be my third time gooning. So that's a special thing for me. So anyway, Jake, other than on LinkedIn, is there any place people can find you and your content or maybe get a hold of you?
LinkedIn is probably the most reliable.
Okay.
I do have a portfolio site that I can probably share with you, Brian, that has some like connect with me stuff at the bottom.
Okay.
I don't do Twitter. I don't do any of that other stuff right now. I mean,
Okay.
I'm starting to get a lot of traction with like LinkedIn and making some really cool connections there. So that's a good return on investment. But yeah,
Nice.
that's most of it. I do use Discord a lot too. So if people like Discord, I can share out my Discord handle. I think it's something along the lines of Jake the Snake, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
But I can share that as well, so we can have it somewhere.
Sounds good. Okay. Mr. Betcher, how would people find you? Are you on LinkedIn as well?
LinkedIn also.
Okay. Do you post on there though? How often do you look at, if I was to send you a message today, would you get it in a week and a half or, what's the, you visit it, but do you visit it?
No, I get an email.
Oh, you get an email? Okay. All right. Right on. Miss Abhazi, am I saying that right? I don't want to get pissed at him. Yeah. Abhazi, yeah. Mrs. Abhazi, how would people...
I'm keeping Berlin like professionally.
Okay.
You can still go with Berlin if you really want to.
I like the alliterative thing. I like the
That's not,
alliterative thing.
I do also.
Yeah.
It's going to be great in any alphabetical order.
I know. A, B, B, bar. BR.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
A, B, BR. Done. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably LinkedIn. I do go on
Okay.
LinkedIn daily because I like their games.
You like
As
their
nerdy,
games.
as nerdy as that sounds. Yes.
Okay.
I love like
Okay.
logic and puzzle and word games.
Oh, I
So I'm
see.
like a big like New York Times Wordle
Oh,
and
yes.
spelling bee and crossword person.
Okay.
And they have games that I can crank through in like 30 seconds a piece. So I am on LinkedIn.
Okay. Very good. I'm on LinkedIn as well. We have a Discord, we have a Slack. I'd love for our Slack and our Discords to be more active, but they are what they are. So we get some good content every once in a while. Also, before we go, if you are looking for some OSINT training, I would highly suggest that you go reach out to Joe Gray over on LinkedIn. I put a post up. He is running some OSINT and using AI to help with OSINT and searches and things like that. Joe's been on our show several times, talking about SECTFs that he did and won at DEF CON and other places. His training is really great. I haven't taken the AI powered stuff yet, but back in the day, probably about 2 years ago, I took the one just being able to Google Dork or look for missing people, and it was a very, very cool class, and he does a lot of good work there. So go check him out on LinkedIn. He's got some deals going on for some of the classes, and he's also giving those classes, I think, in the next 5 to 10 days. So, but he's got a revolving list of things. So if you are interested in any of those classes, you can hit him up and say, hey, when are you going to run this class, and then you can get some inside baseball. So yeah. Like I said, LinkedIn, Slack. I'm on Discord as well, and
I will be at Blue Team Con.
oh yeah, when is Blue Team Con?
September
Okay,
ish, September sometime. I can't
Blue
remember
Team
exactly
Con
6th through 8th.
is 10 to 13 September.
So close.
Well, in this case, it would make more sense because if I showed up 6 to 8, September in Chicago, that would not be Blue Team Con. So
no, but you could stick around.
Yeah, it's not bad. September in Chicago, it wouldn't be bad, but yeah, it's in 45 days. So yeah, looks like
I run the villages there now.
Oh, that's right. Congratulations.
Right, so 2nd year doing that.
Okay.
We will have cyber polygons.
Oh,
which is a new village for us, and then the IoT village is coming back.
Okay.
And we will have the Linux village.
Okay.
Which is new.
Tickets are on sale, looks like.
Yes.
Yeah, you can go reserve a ticket. You can also look at the schedule and the speakers on that site, the trainers.
And it's a new hotel.
Yeah, the Swiss Hotel. Hotel.
It's across the street. But
oh, okay. I wish we had venues like that. Chicago seems to have a lot of them. San Diego doesn't have a ton of venues that can hold 600 to 700 people and have multiple tracks. And
surprising.
The other thing is the ones that do charge out the ass. And it is San Diego. I mean, Far West Hacking Fest was here one time, and they left because of cost.
Wonder if we could do it like on a military base.
Oh yeah, you just have to be able to get people on there, But yeah, I mean, you could probably do something like that. Yeah, just a thought. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So I think we're gonna go, and I hope everyone has a good rest of your day. Jake, thank you so much for coming on. Feel free to hit us up if you want to come back and talk about anything detection, malware related, or whatever. I will send that invoice over to Miss Berlin from Blumera, so I can get my fat stacks of cash. No, I'm just kidding. Go check out Blueberry's website as well, just for shits and giggles. And Miss Berlin's working to make it a better product, so she cares. So there you go. I'm Brian. This is Brian. That's Amanda. That's Jake. And thank you all for being here. Take care. Have a good week. And as we're fond of saying around here, take care of yourself because you're the only you have. Okay. Y'all take care. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.